what I love about Nicole. She is a mother who plays, really plays.
What I love about Charlie.
He loves being a dad. He loves all the things you're supposed to hate, like waking up at night.
She knows when to push me and when to leave me alone.
He never lets other people keep him from what he wants to do.
Dad, you're too far.
I know. It's not easy for her to close a cabinet.
He's incredibly neat.
She's brave.
He's brilliant.
She's
He's very
very
competitive.
This week, Shane and I are discussing 2019's Marriage Story, the great Noah Baumbach film starring Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson. This is Boy Party. Every day I wake up and I hope you're dead. Dead? Like if I could guarantee the podcast would be okay, I'd hope you get an illness and then get hit by a car and die. Hello everybody, welcome to Boy Party, the podcast about movies that give you two for the price of one on Stars of the Silver Screen. My name is Lucien and I'm joined by my soon-to-be ex-spouse. We've been in court, we've been battling over custody of this show. Shane Kelly's here.
Hello, Lucien.
Which of these lawyers would you be hiring? We've already discussed
We
this
have
while watching the
discussed
film,
this.
but you've got, on the one hand, the absolute human slime that is Ray Liotta's character.
Yeah.
But effective. A good arguer.
Sure.
Would have killed a college debating society. And then you have this sort of kind of Laura Dern represents the sort of the E-News fashion police side of bitchy lawyer behavior, I feel like.
Why do you not describe Laura Dern as slimy here? Is she not effectively doing the same thing?
Slimy is a gendered term, isn't it? I
You
feel
think
like
so?
I feel like in my head it is.
I thought I thought slimy kind of was referring to the actions of the lawyer.
I guess she is slimy. I would rarely describe a woman's behavior as slimy, but I suppose you're right. She is slimy.
I would imagine she recommended that Scarlett Johansson go around to all the lawyers and have initial meetings.
True. That's very slimy.
She did. I'd consider that slimy.
Yeah.
I'd imagine that is something that was her recommendation.
Yeah.
I imagine she would have wanted to go after his grant money.
Yes.
Initially. Like the film kind of sets it up that Scarlett Johansson and Laura Dern kind of initiate the dirty play.
They do. It's like Scarlett Johansson basically is conned by this woman and by the entire divorce industrial complex into surrendering this situation to those games.
Yeah.
And she does so with complete good intentions, but for her son and for herself, but ultimately like she is won over by this huckster, which is Laura Dern's character, which then pulls him, Charlie, into the same game where he has to go and find a counterpart, where he has to deal with these two guys who were both kind of different types of difficult. And then ultimately, at the end of the film, they kind of realize that it was all stupid and for nothing. And nothing is achieved other than she gets one day more every 2 weeks with the son.
A little bit, but I also kind of developed a sense throughout that, like, if they didn't go through the lawyers, nothing would ever have been resolved because Adam Driver's character Charlie is too stubborn and would have continued to say, oh, we will talk about it and be normal, and this would have just spiraled into non-committal conversations.
Depending on your level of belief in their relationship, do you think if they hadn't got pulled in by these lawyers, they would have potentially gotten back together? But it's really the courtroom stuff and the lawyers and the bitching back and forth that is the final nail in the coffin that makes them want to separate. Which is maybe what they need.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they need to push them over the line because their relationship is obviously not working.
I don't know. I think the best thing about this film is that you can constantly revise it and see different options.
Yeah, no, it
and
doesn't
there's no clear.
The film doesn't have a definitive take on what's going on because it's a fluid situation. It's in flux, and I imagine it is in flux for Baumbach himself.
And if he decided to make the
this
film 10 minutes longer and tack on another scene at the end, there'd be more issues.
Yeah, exactly. It ends at probably the best possible moment where you feel a sense of closure, but you'll never feel closure with this film. Because,
no, never.
Because the situation it's depicting is so frustrated. So this is the fourth Noah Baumbach film that we've discussed on a podcast in the last couple of years, not on Boy Party, but we've done 3 episodes of our previous show discussing films of his, which I would highly advise you check out because they cover a lot of ground that we're probably not going to revisit here in terms of psychoanalyzing Mr. Baumbach, his own relationship, his family background, his marriages to Jennifer Jason Leigh and subsequently Greta Gerwig, his child with Jennifer Jason Leigh now being raised by him and Greta Gerwig and all of that. We've done episodes on While We're Young, which is a film about him dealing with being in his 50s and hanging out with Adam Driver, who's so young and so cool.
Yeah.
We've done the film Greenberg with Ben Stiller, which is a little bit less personal, I feel like. And then we've done an episode on the Meyerowitz stories, where Ben Stiller and Adam Sandler play brothers going through sort of competing midlife crises. Also stars one of last week's boys, Dustin Hoffman. So you can check out all of those. I'll put links in the show notes. But this is, for me, his best film. I think it is the opus of what he is trying to achieve in all of his films, which is this incredibly 21st century contemporary human drama about people largely from New York who work in the arts and in film and in theater, who are going through real problems in a sort of a horrifyingly grounded way. And it's obviously existing in this kind of post John Cassavetes, post Robert Altman thing that he's always trying to achieve. And I find it to be so moving and effective. And like I've said before on those podcasts, that I think Baumbach and I maybe have similar upbringings in the sense of what his parents were up to and stuff. And I think that I find a lot to connect to in the family dynamics that are exhibited in his films. In the case of Marriage Story, I watch this and I go, I am so glad that my parents did not separate when I was a child. This is such an upsetting situation. And actually the fact that the kid, Henry, like holds it together as well as he does throughout the film without seeming to have like a complete nervous breakdown is a testament to his stoicism as a young boy. But anyway, does this make you reflect on your own functional nuclear family dynamic that you're glad to be part of?
Yeah, absolutely. I see a lot more of these characters in myself more than I see it in my parents my own upbringing.
They're closer to us generationally, I suppose.
Yeah, and I feel like the problems expressed are never problems I've witnessed amongst my parents.
No, but it's interesting. I feel like
whether they've hidden them from me or they're just a genuinely happy marriage.
Yeah,
I'd like to think the latter.
But maybe we've got maybe our we're watching this film as a kind of a theme park spectacle of well, we're not from divorced homes, so this is a fantasy that we get to enjoy. I feel like people we know who are from divorced backgrounds would find this film really difficult to watch.
Maybe. That could be
But I do as you're saying, I recognize my own behaviors in these characters. I also recognize those of my parents and stuff as well, just based on the culture these people are operating in. But I think it is incredibly well written, incredibly well acted, and I think it's wonderful. I love this film. So I saw this when it came out in the cinema. It was a Netflix film, but it was released in Irish cinemas on limited release for a few weeks before it came out. Saw it with friend of the show, Joe Moran, on opening day and thought it was class. And then it came out on Netflix about 3 weeks later. Watched it again. And then it proceeded to do very well in the awards race all year. And basically, which is really surprising to me because a Baumbach film had never been fully embraced before. I think there was the odd screenplay nomination or two, but never to this extent. And this film really did end up, I think, probably running in third place for Best Picture, third or fourth place that year, which is really impressive considering that it is,
Is this the Parasite year?
Good. This is the Parasite year.
Yeah.
So I'll read out to you what it was up against in the Best Picture category. You have Parasite, Ford v Ferrari, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, 1917, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm guessing, based on no evidence whatsoever, that this was probably running in third place behind Parasite in 1917. But I'd be very open to the idea that either Jojo Rabbit or Joker was sneakily getting more votes than this.
You don't think Little Women was...
I don't think Little Women was going to win Best Picture, despite being easily my favorite film on this list. But I just think it's... I just think there was no sense at the time of Little Women. Little Women goes home empty-handed that night in terms of the major categories, and I think people did not feel that it was time to reward Gerwig yet, on her second major feature. Like, The Irishman kind of crashed and burned, 10 or 12 nominations, 0 wins. Jojo Rabbit, unfortunately, I think was a very strong contender that year. It wins screenplay. A horrible, evil film, but definitely was in contention. And then 1917 and Parasite were sort of neck and neck the entire time to win. In hindsight, I liked 1917 when it came out, but in hindsight, what a boring Best Picture winner that would have been. Especially 2 years after Dunkirk, which I know is a different war and all that, but like it is a far more exciting, intense, well-acted, well-directed version of that type of movie.
Yeah.
1917
doesn't need to be watched a second
No,
time.
it's a gimmick. It works once. I did enjoy it at the time, but Parasite is a really fun, once-in-a-generation kind of Best Picture winner. And it's really fun that it won. I obviously have shared my thoughts. We have shared our thoughts on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, a film we think is overrated as hell. Little Women I love. Joker is, not the worst thing in the world, but is not an Oscar-worthy film. And Ford v. Ferrari and The Irishman are two films I took a long nap through. But Marriage Story then ends up with a Best Actor nomination for Driver, Best Actress nomination for Scarlett, and Best Supporting Actress win for Laura Dern, which is just wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, Laura Dern is also in Little Women.
She is.
And you could have given her the Oscar for that. And it's kind of interesting to me that this is just where the
She didn't get a
settled.
nomination for that, did she?
No, you can't be nominated twice in the same category anymore. So she would have potentially... I don't think we would know if she had gotten, let's say, enough votes for Little Women to be in third or fourth place. They would have probably... I think they just remove her from the... They remove her from the bunch. She leaves. The Marriage Story nomination is left remain, and then they bump somebody else up into fifth place. So there's a very strong likelihood, although Florence Pugh is in there nominated against her. So I don't think two Little Women are necessarily getting into that category. They absolutely deserve to be.
So did she do some element of a campaign, do you think, for Little Women
Everyone
at all?
was campaigning for Little Women, but I'd say the focus with her was on Marriage Story. And she would have been aware from early on that Marriage Story was probably her best shot, just in terms of the precursors.
Hopefully there's no fighting amongst the directors about that.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Imagine. That is so funny, right? It is actually hilarious. Now, she is great in Little Women 2, although I do find her...
Little Women 2.
Little Women 2, yeah. Twiddle Women. I find her performance in Little Women is really interesting, but also gets on my nerves a little bit. I'm on my, 6th or 7th rewatch of that film now, and I find her a little bit too nice and too perfect. And she's a very sanctimonious character. But maybe she's not. Maybe it's not sanctimoniousness. Maybe this is just earnestness. But to me, I'm like, you can only be so nice. She walks in on Christmas morning. Oh, girls, we should give our dinner to the poor people down the street. And there's just this whole sense of like, will you just stop being so nice? And when Odenkirk shows up, I not to give credit to a man here, but like when Odenkirk shows up, I find her manner becomes a lot more bearable, and like she reins it in for the rest of the film because she's able to share the wealth of the parenting with him, and she no longer has to embody like the entire spirit of this family's goodness is on my back.
Yeah, do you think it's a compensatory thing when Odenkirk just isn't around that she has to be
I think so,
switched on the entire time?
Yeah,
and everything
she's
has to be
like
perfect too?
obviously like the film is almost just about what if a mother was so good that she raised like 4 unbelievably great kids who all have amazing talent and charity and kindness, and that film is just about like raising the perfect family, and like Laura Dern as the embodiment of that idea is a good casting. Part of me wonders, does she win the Oscar for Marriage Story partially because of how
good sentiment around...
the contrast between the two performances makes it more obvious what a great actress she is.
Yeah.
If you're going to see these two films within a few weeks of each other, and you're seeing her play this like conniving, nasty, like
family destroying
force versus the ultimate family creator, this angel sent from heaven in Little Women, and you go, oh my god, the range this woman has, unbelievable. I think it helps. I think
absolutely.
Certainly it's helping her win an Oscar more than if she'd say not made a film in a couple of years and people had forgotten.
She's on the mind, and as well, like seeing an actress twice in 1 year, just
you're like, oh my
probably
god,
gives
she's the
you-
best. Yeah. And is that a coordinated effort by the Baumbach Gerwig household? Perhaps.
Look,
but I will never be mad about a coordinated effort to win Laura Dern an Oscar.
No, not at all.
She, of course, was campaigned for Best Actress by David Lynch, who sat with a cow at the side of the freeway with a giant sign that said, consider Laura Dern, when Inland
I
Empire
had no
came
budget
out.
for this.
It was fantastic.
That was Inland Empire?
Yeah, Inland Empire 2006. Yeah, wonderful. But Laura Dern's Oscar win for this is brilliant. She's great in it. But it also is like the most, I said a few weeks ago, like Kevin Kline is the last person to win an Oscar for a purely comedic performance.
Yeah.
I would say this comes close. This is a 90% comedy role. Like, none of the scenes she's in are particularly dark in their tone. I feel like the worst arguments in this film are saved when she's not around between the two leads.
Yeah, because there's a set, like, it's kind of displayed throughout that the lawyers are there because it's their job. you can see when they're arguing in the office, they're like, "Ooh, what do you want for lunch?" And they switch off. They're in the courtroom. They walk outside.
They're all friends when they're not
all pals.
arguing.
Yeah.
She's going to she's going to Malibu with Ray Liotta's family.
Yeah.
And she's chatting about sandwiches to.
They're all pals, but they're using this couple as just like a medium to kind of make money and like have fun in a sense. Like they enjoy the little battle of like fighting for custody.
Yeah, there's 3 lawyer characters in this: Dern, Ray Liotta, and Alan Alda. Ray Liotta's character, Ray Liotta's amazing in this. All these guys, all these people should have been Oscar nominated. Ray Liotta obviously dies a couple of years after this, which is crazy because in this he looks pretty well, and he looks a lot healthier than Alan Alda, who is, has been suffering from Parkinson's now for quite a few years. And in this film, which is kind of the last film performance of his I can recall seeing, he's very shaky hands.
Oh,
and
his hand is gone.
It makes the performance so compelling. And
I was almost going to point it out to you at the time. I was like, that's a good little
It's brilliant.
effect.
But it's like utilizing his wobbliness to make his character feel more real. I think it makes this guy seem, and it makes this guy seem kind in a way where you're like, I don't think you're like, he's obviously someone who's been worn down by the system, but I don't think his convictions are as grim as the other two. Like, and he's
obviously not hyper motivated by money, considering he's eating his lunch out of Tupperware,
exactly,
like in his
and
office.
his daughter's working for him.
Yeah.
It's using his disability to make the character, more fleshed out, which I think is actually like a brilliant piece of directing. Like, but Alan Alda is also wonderful in this, great actor. And then you've got Julie Haggerty as Nicole's mother, who is so good and is like Charlie Bear and is like screaming and so brilliant. Merritt Weaver as the sister, who is fantastic. And then in the acting troupe, you've got Wallace Shawn, Matthew Marr, a bunch of our favorites. Robert Smigel plays the marriage counselor at the start, and that's basically everyone who's in this of any significance. But it's 2 hours and 17 minutes, which that's the worst running time a film can be.
We've identified it as the worst.
It is the worst because you're like, you could have got this under 2 or you could have got this up to 3 and you chose surrender. I think this is as good as a 2 hour and 17 minute film gets at making that justifying that running time, because you kind of hit 2 hours, the story has sort of come to a conclusion, and then the last 20-25 minutes of this film is just giving us one last gut punch for each person and a sense of resolution, but not quite, and you get back-to-back performances of Stephen Sondheim classics. You get Scarlett performing with the sister and the mother at some family function where it's all smiles, and then you have this like devastating karaoke rendition of Being Alive by Driver at the bar back in New York, and you're like, these 2 existences now fractured forever. This kind of sunny LA entertainment industry, smiles and laughs, and this kind of like slightly dingier, although upmarket, New York Broadway lifestyle. And
also just like throwing 2 songs into this such conversation dialogue heavy film. It's just a nice resolution at the end.
Absolutely.
It's a change of pace. It perks you back up again.
And it builds upon, because there's been so much arguing and snapping and nastiness, but it also builds upon the script in a really great way where you're like, oh, I'm seeing a new level of these people's, in his case anyway.
Personalized, because they're not around each other.
Yeah, I'm seeing a new level of his emotional response to what's been going on. Like, this guy is permanently fucking broken by this whole situation.
It does a good job of summarizing what happened in the previous 2 hours down into like 3 minutes for each character.
Yeah.
It's great.
Something that happened when this film came out, which was really unfortunate, was that idiots took the clip of the screaming argument in the flat and someday I hope you wake up and I hope I wake up and you're dead. And people put that up on Twitter out of context, and then idiots who didn't watch the film were like, this is bad acting. This is so over the top. And I think it seriously damaged this film's reputation for years to come. I think a lot of people who haven't seen this film think that it is a over-the-top, soapy, screaming drama. I think there's people we know who, until they saw it, thought that the film was all that scene and was all set in one room. It's so unfortunate. I remember having an argument with one of the stupidest people I've ever met at the time, who said that he wouldn't watch it because he was boycotting Scarlett Johansson's entire career. Why, I haven't quite established. And that he didn't think Adam Driver was a good actor. And I said, have you seen him in anything? And he had only seen him in clips on Twitter, and wouldn't watch this, wouldn't watch Star Wars, and hadn't seen him in anything else. So there's a lot of people like that in the world. And you know what? They don't deserve Marriage Story. They don't deserve good cinema. They deserve to watch slop. So they can go enjoy 65, the dinosaur movie, and get their Adam Driver fix from that. But anyway, what was I saying? This film was taken a little bit I think, the wrong way by people who never watched it. If you sit down and watch the full thing, it's poignant, it's amazing, it's very contemporary, and it also will, reflect your own behaviors back on you.
Oh, there's so many like specific little dynamics in this, like reinterpreting arguments you've had in the previous in new context to get back at people, all that stuff.
It's great. And it's like clearly the work of a man who is married to another great screenwriter.
Yeah.
Because you're like, this, now, no, Baumbach's sole credited writer on this film, but you obviously are aware watching it that he does live with Greta Gerwig, and she is a great writer in her own right. And that marital input into this script, as well as his own divorce from Jennifer Jason Leigh and his custody battle over his son, whatever, is making this feel so real and genuine, and it's wonderful.
No, it's like a perfect prisoner's dilemma of a film where every action by each character is probably pretty rational and the logical next step to forwarding the plot, but like it ultimately just ends up with making everything worse.
Yeah, I think, like, do you end up feeling more sympathetic to one side than the other?
At the beginning, I was more sympathetic towards Driver because I'm like, why is this being escalated by Scarlett Johansson? And then ultimately, but then I kind of pivot back because he's so stubborn.
He's so stubborn. I think also
I think
there is, if you're going based off listing the kind of the quote unquote crimes that have been committed, I think he is the worst behavior in the relationship.
I agree.
He's cheated. He's talking in this very like,
I gave you everything.
Yeah, I am this great man. I am striving for greatness. Kind of Timothy Chalamet at the SAG Awards bullshit, where you're like, oh, shut up, man. And like, I feel like she hasn't done anything wrong in this relationship.
No,
at all.
That's the thing. I unfortunately feel like there is an inherent leniency. Like Laura Dern explains this. The man doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and yet
the idea of a perfect father was only invented 30 years ago.
The idea of a perfect father was only invented, and like, we see these two sides as kind of equals and equally evil against each other. But they're kind of not really.
They're not really. I think that she's definitely, like, I don't think we as third parties can, or the lawyers or anyone, can adjudicate on who's right or wrong in a marriage breakdown. But I do think, like, my sympathies, I always try to, and I'm not, I'm so great, I'm such a feminist, but like, I do try and look at these things and be like, now, I'm probably physically going to inherently want to hear the man's side of the story first, because of being a man, but I have to resist that. So then I go and I overcompensate and I do the opposite, and I'm like, what is the woman feeling? And then
like I found myself watching this, like, absolutely glossing over the whole cheating with stage man thing. I'm like,
I know,
ignore
well,
it.
It feels minor in the grand scheme of the arguments.
Sorry, the thing that really swung me against Adam Driver was the moving to Copenhagen for 6 months.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. I was like,
I don't know though. That's something that my family would have done.
Oh, I know, but when your wife has constantly been asking, can we move to LA for a year?
Yes, and he won't go there. He won't go there.
Even when he was offered
you're right.
a fellowship or a job.
Him being offered something in LA and still not going when she wants to go. That's
I think
bad.
that really swung me in the wrong. I'm like, okay,
we've never seen the extent to which she was actually bugging him to move to LA. You know, but whatever. We're going out.
Yeah, she was a big star in New York. I'm sure she was.
We're going off what we've seen in this film. There's a really fun backstory that's set up about how she was like a star of like a teen movie where she like went topless in a scene, and people are kind of obsessed with her because of that, but they don't really flesh it out past the first like 10-15 minutes, but it is fun.
It's a good background to her level of fame.
It
gives you a perfect idea of where she stands.
Because then when she gets the lead
hierarchy.
she gets the lead role in some weird sci-fi show in 2019, and you're like, right, so this would be like early 2000s teen star comes back. You'd be like, I kind of know who that is.
Is there any comparison here?
What's your one who I was on Zoom with before? I can never remember her name. The daughter from 24, Alicia Cuthbert.
Okay,
her maybe. I was on Zoom with Alicia Cuthbert once, folks. That is my claim to fame. What I have so much to say about this film, actually. Music by Randy Newman.
Great.
Which our housemate walked in and went, that music is very Monsters, Inc. And I said, correct, it's Randy Newman. It is a very odd choice to have Randy Newman score this film, and I think it is the best decision that he could have possibly made. I'm not even a Randy Newman fan. I don't like his, I'm Randy Newman bullshit. But his score is like so Pixar that it kind of like, it like gives the film the sense of timelessness, where you're like, it kind of feels like a 1970s, 60s or 70s thing, but also just like keeps things just bouncy enough that the miserableness of the subject matter does not drag and wear you down. Shot by the great Irish DOP Robbie Ryan, who does an unbelievable job. I think this movie looks incredible. It's got this like beautiful, grainy, like colorful look to it. And I think it's almost deliberately meant to like exaggerate the pops the pops of color in LA and the pops of darkness in New York, and like the type of duality that this child.
This is a great New York versus LA contrast
brilliant
movie.
And even the poster for this film is like, one of the posters is like the two of their silhouettes with this like split down the middle of the New York and LA skylines, like fading into each other. It's such a good. And most of the movie is obviously set in LA, and it doesn't make LA look that nice. I mean, the Halloween scene where they're driving around on LA is pretty miserable.
That is my negative stereotype of LA. Like,
yes,
I don't like
that you can't trick or treat without your car. Like that's. There's so much
think
space.
of the space. There's so much space.
What's the line the kid says Henry says on Halloween? He goes, "I don't need my friends in New York. I have a new friend called Axel. Axel's really funny. I think you'd really like him, Dad." That's my favorite line in the film.
That's fantastic. He
Uh,
also, like, Adam Driver's also a prick to the child. For certain parts of it, like
he is for certain parts of it. I think within reason. He's
within reason. You need to treat a child as
seem
if
like
you
good
respect their thoughts.
I know.
You can't be dismissive just because they're a child and they're saying nonsense.
Yes. I think he's a good parent overall. I think they both are. I mean, I think the way they behave towards the son is very gentle and nice and interesting.
Yeah.
But like the scene with the fucking woman comes over to supervise him and the son hanging out is fantastic, where
he's trying so hard.
He like brings in the son a bowl of cherry tomatoes while the son's playing on the floor. This is real shit that my parents would have done. And then he's like, the son's like, "Do the knife trick," and he's like, "I'm not doing the knife trick." No need to mention the knife trick again. And then he's sitting bored with this boring tap water woman, who's like sadness from Inside Out or something. She's like, "Thank you for the tap water," and he's like, "You know, the knife trick's actually pretty cool," and then proceeds to like slice his arm open and spends the next 5 minutes
demonstrate the knife trick.
Spends the next 5 minutes trying to cover up his bloody gash,
not passing out the
in
floor.
front of the son. It's so funny.
The son walks in and is like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, fine." And son leaves.
Yeah, and even like the way he like dresses up as the Invisible Man at Halloween. Like I think he's a fun parent. And
I agree.
He's an artist parent, like, which is something that Mr. Baumbach is familiar with. Any other specific scenes to call out? Basically, for anyone who hasn't seen it, which you should see it, most of the film is just them basically meeting with lawyers, arguing with each other, trying to keep their careers going while they're fighting over the son's custody. It takes place over probably only the course of like a year. And
they've enough time to like move across the country and move to different schools and have multiple trips over and back to New York.
Yeah.
So probably a year or two.
And then at the very end, it jumps forward by a year. Things are now settled and they're getting on fine. She ties his shoe out on the street. It's all very nice. Her family are all dressed up as the Beatles, and she says,
incredible choice of her new boyfriend.
I know, just the absolute just dopey, boring guy. But he's gonna email Charlie an article that he read. Yeah. But all through the film, there's been this issue of like, can I take him tonight? No, it's my night. And then being very rigid about the boundaries of the agreement. But then in the final scene, you have this moment where she's like, "Look, I actually don't want to take him tonight. Will you take him?" And he's like, "Sure." And that's like you see that the boundaries are being loosened a bit, and the child will probably benefit from there being more relaxed attitude to that stuff.
There are some, I don't know, want to call them like overly sweaty scenes in here, like when they're called over to fix the gate.
Yes, that scene is
one or two
the purpose, and it doesn't quite justify itself.
A little bit, yeah. One other little bit I liked is when they come home to the babysitter, and she's like, "Oh my God, you're so attractive."
Yeah, well, she also buckles her belt when they walk in, and then she goes, "Oh my God, you're both so attractive."
It's good. That's a great like reference point for what these people are.
Yeah, you're like, they are.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah,
yes,
you're like the film has never acknowledged up to this point that these are like two insanely gorgeous movie stars. And you're like, oh yeah, the average rando normie that interacts with them would be like, Jesus Christ, if you were babysitting Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver's child. So we should probably talk about these actors who I both am huge fans of. Him first. I love him so much. He is maybe my favorite working actor today. And I don't say that lightly, folks, but my God, he is so good in everything, even slop, and he has made such an interesting kind of persona for himself of just working with good directors and nothing in between apart from 65, the dinosaur movie. His first film is J. Edgar, directed by Clint Eastwood. He then is in Frances Ha, the Gerwig movie. He's in Lincoln. Now, this is right around the time that he starts off starring in Girls. Little bit of backstory, very quickly. He deploys to the U.S. military right after 9/11, and he is he leaves the army after he is injured in a mountain biking accident, and he leaves
While abroad, or
I don't know, just in his free time. And then he
did he go to Iraq?
He went somewhere. I think. Oh, I don't know if he actually went to Iraq.
Okay,
but he was in the army. He had a particular role, and he was injured. And then he basically goes back to New York, goes to acting school, meets his wife, and within like 3 years of graduating from acting school, he is casting Girls and J. Edgar. And he's just so wonderful in Girls. If anyone hasn't watched it, this is the performance that'll make you go like, maybe this is our greatest living actor. He plays Adam Sackler, who is who is an artist kind of funny guy who is Lena Dunham's situationship at the start of the show. And then over the course of 6 seasons of Girls, they basically have an on and off relationship that has real high points and low points. And he plays like the full spectrum of wonderful human being to horrible asshole. It's so brilliant. It's such a great, well-rounded character. I won't spoil the end of the show, but like the show ends with a very kind of Marriage Story conclusion of like,
okay,
can I pursue the rest of my life with this guy the way that he is, and trying to decide whether that's a good idea or not. He's brilliant in that show. But his film career anyway, he works with Gerwig and Francis Ha. He works with Spielberg in Lincoln. It's the first thing that I see him in. And I remember sitting down watching Lincoln and my dad going, oh, that's the guy from Girls. So that's the first time I ever heard of Adam Driver. Then he's in Inside Llewyn Davis, where he basically just shows up to go outer space. And I think that's like his only scene in that. He's then in a movie called Hungry Hearts, which is weirdly similar to Marriage Story. This is a film that I watched because I'm an Adam Driver completist, folks. A film where he and his wife have a child, and it's kind of a homeopathy panic movie in a way that I'm not a huge fan of, but his wife is basically like, I want to raise our child outside of the medical system. I'm going to raise him eating only rocks and pebbles.
It's great they never get into any of this in Marriage Story.
I know. This film is a nightmare, and he basically has to kidnap his own child from his wife because she won't feed it proper food or anything. The child is like sick and emaciated. There's a scene where the wife, oh God, folks, like skip forward 10 seconds. There's a scene where the wife basically sticks her fingers down the child's throat to see what comes up, to prove that he's been secretly feeding the child meat in a church when she's not looking. This film is so horrible.
Jail for that woman.
So horrible. And he basically has to abduct his own child, and with the help of his mother-in-law. Anyway, horrible movie, but it's a real like, what if Marriage Story was like 500 times
what
more,
if it's just like a
more grim,
different demographic of Marriage Story.
Then he starts his Baumbach run with While We're Young, which he's really good in, with Ben Stiller and Naomi Watts. And then he's in This Is Where I Leave You, which is a cast of fucking massive heavyweights.
Yes.
So his girlfriend in this is Connie Britton.
Yeah.
And his brother is Jason Bateman. His sister is Tina Fey.
Corey Stoll is his brother as well.
Corey Stoll as well. And then Catherine Hahn is in the mix.
And sister?
Corey Stoll's wife, I think. And then Jane Fonda is the mother, and they're all playing Jewish, and they're sitting Shiva, and I don't think a single one of those people is Jewish. Is Catherine Hahn? Maybe. I don't know. I don't care. But certainly most of them aren't.
Yeah.
And it's a good film.
Who's Catherine Hahn married to in real life? Someone famous, I think.
I don't think Catherine Hahn's married to someone famous in real life.
You're
mixing her up with she's married to someone called Ethan Sandler, who is not related to Adam
never
Sandler.
mind then.
I think you're mixing her up with everyone's favorite funny woman, Paul Thomas Anderson's wife, whose name is suddenly escaping me. Everyone's favorite funny woman.
Leslie
No.
Who am I thinking of?
This is so funny. The woman who plays Kamala Harris on SNL.
Maya Rudolph.
Maya Rudolph. Are you mixing her up with Maya Rudolph?
No. It doesn't matter.
All right, doesn't matter.
Maybe I had a dream.
2015, he plays Kylo Ren in Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Now, you have famously not seen any Star Wars movies apart from Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones.
Episode 1 and 2.
Yes. So, do you have any idea what his deal is in Star Wars? Just from photos or anything?
Yeah, he's got a red lightsaber with little...
it's like a sword. Yeah, it has a little, like, the thing like crosses across.
Kind of cool.
Yeah. He plays Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher's son.
Okay.
Ben Solo, who basically is a school shooter type. He's like a goth who... He basically he
wears very high-waisted trousers.
Yes, very high-waisted trousers. They don't pay enough attention to him because they're too busy fighting the Sith. So he ends up getting radicalized and becoming a dark Sith warrior type.
Sure.
He's the head of the Knights of Ren, Kylo Ren, and then he kills his own father in the first movie. He kills Harrison Ford. It's like a fucking insane scene, actually. They're like up on this bridge, thousands of miles up in the air, and he's like about to give him a hug because Harrison Ford has been like, stop being evil, you're my son, I love you. And then Adam Driver literally goes over to like give him a hug and then puts his fucking crazy lightsaber through his chest and pushes him off, and he falls to his death.
And Harrison Ford never returns.
He comes back as a ghost 2 movies later to talk to Adam Driver and be like, you can be redeemed. And then Adam Driver redeems himself.
Is he in 3 of those? 2 of those?
He's in 3 of those. He's the top build of the new cast members in all of those movies. Like, those movies are like build Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Adam Driver, Oscar Isaac, Daisy Ridley. You forget Oscar Isaac.
Thankfully has never become his sole image.
He took the money, he took the opportunity, and he's just used the leverage to basically make interesting stuff for the last 10 years. It is incredible that he managed to I think part of the reason he shook the image is because no one likes those films that much. Although
they made a lot of money.
They made an unbelievable amount of money, and he will probably never make a film with a higher box office than those.
Nope.
But the fact is, because he was in those, he doesn't have to make any more blockbuster slop. He doesn't need the money.
He's got a bit of a reputation as being able to sustain one of these
proven himself.
blockbusters.
So now they'll greenlight any old shit with him in it, and as we'll see now, it leads to interesting results. He's in the Jeff Nichols movie Midnight Special, which is this kind of Spielberg homage. I'm not mad about it. Patterson, one of his best film performances, Jim Jarmusch movie. He plays a bus driver who writes poems, and it's about a week in his life. A wonderful film. Then he's in Scorsese's Silence. Him and Andrew Garfield play monks who go looking for Liam Neeson in Japan. I really don't like that film. I think it is Catholic propaganda.
It's a reasonably good project to do on paper.
He's the second lead of a Scorsese film. Yeah. Like 4 years after his first film. I mean, it's incredible. Then Meyerowitz, he pops up for one scene. Logan Lucky, which you're a bigger fan of than I.
You keep saying that. I
really just didn't like it at all, and you were kind of into it. So
I was just Adam Driver and Daniel Craig were doing like,
it is fun.
We're playing brothers.
Yeah. Yes, that's.
And
fun.
I was like, that was kind of funny.
That's a Steven Soderbergh picture.
He has one arm in that film.
He does have one arm in that film. That is a fun choice. It's like, he's too big, he's too strong. We need to limit his power.
And this is the first of Daniel Craig's like post-Bond kind of campy,
for sure,
silly characters.
Yes, and it leads to him doing Knives Out and Queer and everything else. Black Klansman gets him his first Oscar nomination. It is objectively funny that the only actor from Black Klansman who gets an Oscar nomination is the white guy. Yeah. This is something that has always happened throughout the history of film, and it is mighty unfortunate, it's like, they love giving the white guy in a black film, like Fassbender in 12 Years a Slave. It's like, they're not even that good. Like, I don't think Adam Driver is that good in Black Klansman. I don't like Black Klansman very much.
Stand out a bit more.
Yeah. I would say for a lot of people, the only thing they've seen Adam Driver in outside of Star Wars is probably Black Klansman, but I don't love that film. Then he's in, this is when his crazy run of auteur projects starts. He is the person who finally gets Terry Gilliam's The Man Who Killed Don Quixote over the line. This is a film that Terry Gilliam was trying to make for 30 years. Okay. He shot half of it with Johnny Depp back in the day, and it failed. He tried it, I think, with Heath Ledger, and then finally gets made with Adam Driver. Not very good. But like, it got done, and you're just kind of like, okay, I'm glad he got to do that, and then move on.
Sure.
Then he's in the Jim Jarmusch movie, The Dead Don't Die, which is a zombie movie where him and Bill Murray play a pair of cops. Probably the worst film he's ever been in. Then Marriage Story. Then there's another Star Wars. Then The Report. All 2019. Mm-hmm. Takes 2 years off. Back in 2021 with Leos Carax's Annette, which I love, where he plays Henry McHenry, a stand-up comedian racked by sexual abuse scandal, who is the father to a puppet baby Annette, birthed by his opera singer wife Marion Cotillard just before she commits suicide off the side of a boat. This is a insane postmodern rock opera by the French master Carax, and it is phenomenally weird. I was about to call it phenomenal. I was like, this film is mostly works. My father is the biographer of Carax, and he did a Q&A with him for this film in London 2021, which is very fun. Didn't meet Adam Driver though. Then in 2021 he plays a supporting role in 2 big movies by the same director, Ridley Scott. Back-to-back roles in The Last Duel and House of Gucci. Now, you've only seen Gucci. He's not very good in that, is he? I can't really remember what he does.
He's Lady Gaga's husband.
He's just kind of this like goofy Italian guy who she is able to sort of...
No, he does play Goofy very well because he can play Goofy incredibly straight. And it's a great not gag, but like it's a good skill to have. Because it adds like a level of seriousness to something that's inherently ridiculous.
Yeah. I just think he gets a little bit lost in that film because Gaga and Jeremy Irons and Al Pacino are all playing it
Jared
so...
Leto.
Yeah, they're all playing it so big.
Yeah.
That he's kind of the most subtle actor in that film.
Surprisingly.
It's like the only time that'll ever be the case.
Yeah.
But like him doing his crazy Italian thing, you're like, yeah, but buddy, like we're watching Lady Gaga and Jared Leto. Will you go to the back there now? It's a pity. Not great casting, but sure, it's a fun big movie. The Last Duel. He's not the best thing in The Last Duel, but he is good in it. And this is a film I really like, and it's of course Matt Damon and him and Jodie Comer. And Ben Affleck, and he basically he sexually assaults Jodie Comer. Matt Damon is her husband. He is seeking justice, so they basically get into a duel, and he gets this great line in the trailer: "The accusation is false," which I love. He's playing the French knight Jacques Legris, and we will maybe cover that movie on this podcast someday, so we'll leave it for now. White Noise 2022, another Baumbach. This is a film that no one in the entire world except for me has seen.
Even I haven't seen it.
We have a giant poster for it in the house. I think it's a lot of fun. He plays a role that Paul Giamatti should have played. He's playing a 60-year-old, English professor, or actually a Hitler studies professor. Apologies. And his hair is gray, and he's got a fake fat stomach on. And you're kind of like, okay, he's fun to watch, but I would rather this be
just a guy who actually
looks like that.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a Colin Farrell Penguin situation. Then they put out 65, the dinosaur movie. God knows when that was shot. I apologize for saying I was an Adam Driver completist. I haven't seen this dinosaur movie. Then he's in Michael Mann's Ferrari and Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis, two films that I think are both garbage.
Back to doing the Italian accent.
Back with the Italian accent. He's not good in Ferrari at all. He's actually okay in Megalopolis. I don't think he's anywhere near the biggest problem that film has. He doesn't quite keep it on track, but he could. If anyone could, he could. His next film is going to be a Jarmusch movie called Father, Mother, Sister, Brother that is some sort of anthology thing. They shot bits of it in Dublin with Cate Blanchett, but he never came to Dublin, so I assume he's in completely different scenes. And then the next thing he has coming up after that is a James Gray movie with Jeremy Strong and Anne Hathaway, which I'm really excited for. And that is the Adam Driver career, and I think he is one of our best, and I will watch him in literally anything except the dinosaur movie.
In my head just now, I have decided that I think based on what my recollection is of the Ferrari poster, that Adam Driver, a much worse version of him is Steve Coogan.
Yes. He looks like Steve Coogan
He looks
on
like
the
Steve
Ferrari
Coogan
poster.
in the Ferrari poster.
He does.
I'm like, could Steve Coogan do some of these Adam Driver roles on a much smaller scale? And I'm like,
Steve Coogan is 20 years older than him.
I know.
So yeah.
Like a lot of Steve Coogan is images of 20 years ago.
Yes.
Of
Young
old.
Steve Coogan, sure. I think Steve Coogan is a good actor.
I do as well.
I don't think he could do any of these Baumbach movies or Girls or Star Wars. Could he do House of Gucci? Yes, he could.
He could do House
in fact,
of Gucci.
He'd be better in House of Gucci.
He could do all of Adam Driver's Italian roles.
Yes, all of his Italian roles and his weird period dramas, maybe.
Let Adam Driver play Mick McCarthy.
Yes, he could. Yeah. Adam Driver could play Mick McCarthy.
He could play Mick McCarthy.
Sorry, we must briefly say, there's a lot of idiots on the internet who wanted Adam Driver cast as Severus Snape in the Harry Potter TV show.
Do we want to indulge them with our conversation?
Well, I just think it was...
That's not how casting works.
So lazy to go, who's a guy with long black hair who's kind of scary and has a big nose?
Yeah.
Snape. No, sorry. Now, what they've gone with is they've cast this black British actor as Snape who's a lot younger. He's in his 30s. Snape, I think, is meant to be in his 30s in the book. I could give less of a fuck. Let's move on. Scarlett Johansson. Do you want to guess her total box office?
Oh, 10 million.
$15.5 billion.
Yeah.
She is the most successful female actor in box office history.
I'm so glad she
is
not
Marvel.
Female Chris Evans.
Exactly, I know. But she would never.
She had a career before
She had a
Marvel.
career before,
Yeah.
and she was working with fucking amazing directors before she
Yeah.
was in Marvel. The Marvel was a blip and a way to cash a check for her. It did make her, by default, the biggest female star in Hollywood for 10 years, which is weird and never really made sense. But, she was kind of competing with Jennifer Lawrence for that title for a while. But, she was. And look at these numbers. I mean, largely films she's not the lead of, I must say. But, I mean, she's in $5-6 billion films, all as Natasha Romanoff. She's really good in those Marvel movies, though, I will say. Like, she fucking pops in all of those. I think that she makes them a lot more watchable with her presence, especially the shitty ones. Like,
I'm always surprised by how
Captain
young
America
she still is. She's only 40.
I know, and Adam Driver's 41. She's been around so much longer than him.
Yeah, she's
15
in
years
Ghost
longer.
World
Yeah,
and everything.
Ghost World and all that. But she is. You think about it, you're like, yeah, well, I guess she's playing a teenager in all those movies, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, she's a teenager.
She was a teenager, yeah. So her biggest box office hits outside of Marvel are Sing and Sing 2, but Lucy, like, this is why she became considered the biggest female star. Lucy is a movie that is just, the poster is Scarlett Johansson's face.
Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson is Lucy, $457 million.
What?
So that was her value in 2014. You can't deny that. That's half $1 billion for what if there was an action movie with Scarlett Johansson, right? Now, they tried to recapture that 2 years later with Ghost in the Shell, which is mired in controversy because it is based on an anime, and they cast her as a Japanese character, and the gimmick in the movie is that it's a Japanese character who has, I think, something like taken on a white woman's AI visage or something. Okay. There's a real sweaty way that they get away with it, and that movie is a bomb, kind of.
And led to a lot of terrible jokes where now anytime...
So there was double problems. Number one was her playing a Japanese character. Number two was she was going to be in a movie playing a trans character.
Okay.
And this led to the Scarlett Johansson is playing a tree meme, which idiots like to reference constantly. And people turned on her and decided she was like a bad person and a bad actress. And it's like, it was misguided for her to want to be in a movie about a trans person. Fine. But I don't see anyone going after Eddie Redmayne to the extent they were going after Scarlett Johansson. And I think people were getting mad at her for working with Woody Allen. Like, every fucking actor of her generation hadn't done the same, including Timothée Chalamet. Like, go fuck yourselves. Like, that is not niche to her. She obviously loves Woody Allen. She's worked with him loads. I think she's come out and probably said very positive things about Woody Allen in the last couple of years. So have lots of other people. I really think...
The idea of the perfect lead male hasn't even been invented in the last 20 years.
I just think she has been dealt with so much nastiness that she doesn't deserve. She's so talented and, you know, does
to
not
be fair,
seem,
never had any public incidents or issues or...
Not really. The thing I dislike
shows up on
most,
Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing I dislike most about her is that she's married to Colin Jost, who I really do not care for. And I think that's... But, and you know, you don't remember this is the case. She was married to Sean Penn and Ryan Reynolds.
Oh.
Insane.
And she's still normal.
Weirdest thing ever, and she's still normal. But like, that's fucking. Her being married to Sean Penn is giving me big like Alana Haim going out with Sean Penn in Licorice Pizza vibes. Like, that's not normal.
Thank God she's not.
That's gross. Like,
regressed to showing up in Deadpool movies.
I know. Well, she's done her time with Marvel, and she took Disney to court. This is the coolest thing she ever did was when Black Widow was dumped on Disney Plus. Now, granted, one of the worst films I've ever seen, but she took Disney to court, basically saying, you did not consult me on this, and I would have made way more money off this movie if you hadn't done this. Cinema. So it did go to cinemas as well. Like, I saw it in cinema, God help me. But she basically said, if you hadn't put it on Disney Plus day and date, I would have made a lot more money out of my back end deal, and you fucked me over for money. Now, people were like, she's so greedy, looking for more money. And like, yeah, but she was proving a point about
sticking
contract violations and fucking over your female star.
A lot of people will get fucked over if companies are happy to dump stuff on streaming.
Great when a big A-list star takes the hit PR-wise for something that's going to affect millions of poorer people down the line.
Because it ultimately is going to be the smaller actors that are going to get their projects dumped. Mm-hmm. Like, her projects are rarely going to get dumped, but she needs to draw a line there.
She drew the line there, and I think it was admirable, and I have no issue. And I think that she came to an agreement with Disney anyway, where I think they
just here's $50 million.
No, literally, what they gave her was they gave her a payout, and they gave her an executive producer credit on a movie called Tower of Terror that has not been made yet.
Okay,
that's what she was given as a gift. Sure. Anyway. Her other big hits, The Island, the Michael Bay movie, that's a boy party, her and Ewan McGregor, SpongeBob SquarePants movie in which she voices Princess Mindy. She did a voice in Transformers 1 last year. She is in $118 million grosser, We Bought a Zoo. She is good in We Bought a Zoo. She's not the wife. The wife's dead. She's like the zookeeper, like the pretty zookeeper lady that he flirts with. And I think they have a kiss at the very end, and you're like, oh, this could have been platonic. It was working so well. Yeah. Lost in Translation made $117 million. That was a huge hit, obviously. Oscar-nominated film.
She's the voice in Her.
She's the voice of the AI in Her, controversially, because she was cast after production had finished, replacing Samantha Morton, who had recorded the entire voiceover. And Samantha Morton has a very nice English accent. And he went, no, I want someone who has a very sensual American Hollywood voice. Scarlett Johansson, who has a very upbeat, chirpy way of speaking. And I think that film will be better with Samantha Morton's voice. I think that Scarlett Johansson's voice feels shoehorned in. It doesn't flow naturally with that film.
Release the Morton cut.
Mortons of Galway.
I hope Samantha Morton is someone who wasn't contractually.
I know. I think Samantha Morton
ruined by that.
Samantha Morton has a sad face where I feel bad for her kind of no matter what happens. Yeah. But anyway, Scarlett Johansson, I think her best performance is probably Ghost World, a film that I absolutely adore. It is a great Terry Zwigoff movie with her and Thor Birch, and Steve Buscemi, of course. Basically, two teenage girls who hate the world and everyone in it. Kind of, she's the more socially functional of the pair. Thor Birch is real like, I just want to be friends with this creepy 40-year-old man. Scarlett Johansson is like, what are you doing? He's so weird. But she's great in that film. They're both great. I'm trying to think of other roles of hers I'm a big fan of. She's in The Prestige, which is her only Nolan. I don't really remember her being that amazing. I
wasn't aware she was in The Prestige.
She's fine. She plays Janet Leigh in the Hitchcock biopic with Anthony Hopkins. She's in Don John, I must mention, a film that we all love. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is addicted to pornography, and she plays the sexy girl in his life that he thinks is going to fulfill his pornographized instincts and fails to do so, and he ends up with Julianne Moore instead.
She's in Jojo Rabbit.
She's in Jojo Rabbit the same year as this. Double Oscar nominee this year. Best Actress for Marriage Story, Best Supporting for Jojo Rabbit. And she is, of course, the lead of Jonathan Glazer's Under the Skin, which I will admit I haven't seen yet.
Does she have an Oscar win?
No, she does not. These are actually her only 2 Oscar nominations for this year's awards. She absolutely should have won for Marriage Story, in my opinion. And I think Adam Driver. So this is the tough one, right?
It's unusual to give both.
No, I'm saying to you, Adam Driver or Adam Sandler for Best Actor that year, if you're picking.
Oh, for Gems?
Yeah.
Or
obviously he's not nominated for the real Oscars, but I'm very torn on this.
I mean,
an Adam off.
Like, if we're going, like, one guy is 20 years older than the other.
Sure.
And we're like, you're never going to get here again, probably.
Possibly. My thing is, I just think Marriage Story is a much better film than Uncut Gems. And it's much more rewatchable. But
yes, sure.
You're right. I mean, Adam Sandler is a more important figure in my life, and this was the closest he ever got to an Oscar nomination, even though it's not my favorite performance of his, whereas Adam Driver is 100%.
Do you think this is going to be your favorite Adam Driver performance ever?
No,
into the future?
Not at all. He's 41, and I think he could give 20 more great performances, especially if he keeps working with...
Is it currently your favorite Adam Driver performance?
Girls is probably my favorite Adam Driver performance, followed narrowly by this. Okay. Yeah. Patterson, I would also give him a win for. Anyway, it's just an interesting one. But yeah, Scarlett, anyway, she's now going a little bit back to slop land, which is unfortunate. After a couple of years away, she's done this Fly Me to the Moon nonsense last year with Channing Tatum.
A poster that really, really stood out to me when I was flying to the United States. It really stood out to me on the back of
and you considered watching
a screen on an airplane.
Yeah. It's got Jim Rash and
the big font is good. Good optimization for scrolling an airplane.
Did we even discuss that on our boy parties that we missed episode? I don't think we did.
No.
And then she's coming out with Jurassic World Rebirth this year, which is
Jurassic World Scarlett Johansson.
A real waste of her time. Yeah, Jurassic World Scarlett Johansson. But on the other hand, she's in the new the new Wes Anderson movie, and her directorial debut is coming out next year.
Oh, good.
Starring June Squibb, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Jessica Hecht. It's called Eleanor the Great. It's about a 90-year-old Floridian woman who strikes up an unlikely friendship with a 19-year-old student in New York City. That sounds like it could be really good.
Yeah.
I would love if Scarlett... Now, she didn't write this, but I would love
That's probably better.
It might be better. I would love if she became the next Greta Gerwig. Like, I don't think she will, but if she just became like a really great filmmaker, it would be...
Directs once every 5 years, acts twice every 5 years.
Yep. Now, you know what she hasn't done? She hasn't done any TV.
Good.
And it's great.
True movie star.
She's one of the last ones. You can count on one hand the movie stars who haven't done TV. Cruise, DiCaprio, Denzel, Scarlett Johansson.
Jennifer Lawrence on TV?
I guess not. No. I guess not. Unless I'm forgetting something. So it's those guys. Like,
yeah.
It's okay. Brad Pitt hasn't done TV either. But anyway,
Margot Robbie started on TV. Is she gone back to it?
Well, they all started on TV.
Yeah.
I guess I mean, have they gone back to it? No,
Like Brad Pitt was on Friends and stuff.
No, I'm not counting it.
not
Yet.
counting
No,
it.
I mean, who has done a prestige show in the last 10 years? Like,
Yeah.
no. Anyway, I think she's great. I
do as well.
I get mad when people are mean about her. I feel like anyone who's mean about her hasn't watched Ghost World or Marriage Story. And excited to see what she does. And she's so young. She's going to make so much more good stuff.
Yeah, is she kind of her best modern classic Hollywood leading lady?
Yeah.
Like,
She actually won a BAFTA for Girl with a Pearl Earring. So random. Anyway, or for Lost in Translation. I can't tell. Bad job, Wikipedia.
Yeah.
So, we will now do box office. This film was a Netflix movie, so it doesn't have any real box office numbers, but
we'll do the weekend.
we can do the weekend that it came out. So this would have been November 2019, I believe. This is an interesting time in life. I reflect on this period of my life as the pre-COVID months of like thinking that everything was going to be okay forever. Really,
Were you in a good mood when you saw this?
I was, yeah. This is the last time I ever felt like things were going to be okay in the world. It was like November to December 2019. And I get a very weird feeling in my stomach when I think about it as a result. But anyway, that's none of your problem, folks. So you have the weekend box office for when Marriage Story was released.
Do indeed.
All right. What have we got?
Number one this week was a new entrant. Made a nice, healthy sum of 31 million here. Oscar contender this year.
Okay.
Not something we're thinking about. Is a boy party.
Is a boy party.
I believe so.
And it was an Oscar contender for V Ferrari.
Correct.
Released in Ireland and the UK as Le Mans 66.
Very strange.
But retroactively, everyone's decided to just call it Ford versus Ferrari again. Because when the Complete Unknown trailers, it said from the director of Ford versus Ferrari.
Yeah.
And it's the same studio. So I was like, interesting. Disney have just decided now that it's called that again. That film is
66.
okay.
I see a lot of clips of it on TikTok.
I'm sure you do. I took a nap during it, and then I woke up, and I thought the final race was very engrossing, and I think Christian Bale's very good in it. However, it is directed by James Mangold, who is a terrible director. So, anyway. Katrina Balfe is in that.
Okay.
My pal. Yeah.
Next up, we've got another questionable director.
Okay.
I can't believe this film was made in 2019. I didn't think they were still making films about this
Interesting.
this topic.
This topic?
It's a very boyish movie. We got with lead actor Ed Skrein. Ed Skrein?
Yeah.
Ed Skrein.
Okay. Right. It's an Ed Skrein movie. I'm familiar with it, Mr. Skrein.
Okay.
But can I think of what he was in that year? Not really. Oh, shit. I'm going to need some context on that subject matter. You know, he's the villain in Alita Battle Angel. He's the scary robot man.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, the tagline of this is "One battle turned the tide of the war."
What war is it?
The second one.
This is the Second World War.
Yeah.
And it's not 1917, but
No.
I have no idea what this is.
It's kind of slap. This is Midway by Roland Emmerich.
Right. Patrick Wilson's in that.
Patrick
And a few
Wilson,
other
Woody
people like that.
Harrelson.
Oh, Ed Skrein is not first bill, surely, in that.
He is
he?
apparently, yeah. Well, he's first on the cast list. I
Yeah,
assume he's the
okay,
lead of it.
right, yeah.
I got
That
the-
is a rare Roland Emmerich film I haven't seen.
Oh, we got a great combo of Dennis Quaid, Aaron Eckhart, Nick Jonas down here.
Oh, Jesus. What a weird cast. Yeah. I will never watch that film, I don't think.
No.
I think the only Emmerichs I haven't seen are that and 10,000 BC.
He followed up with Moonfall with Patrick Wilson.
He followed it up with Moonfall, yeah.
Okay. Next up, a remake of something from the 80s, I believe.
Interesting.
From the 90s.
Okay.
Maybe the early 2000s.
Genre, please.
Action.
Action. Is there a star in it?
The original is from 2000.
The original's from 2000.
Yeah.
Oh, is there a star?
Yeah.
And he's bald. She's not bald.
She's not bald. But there's a female star in this.
Female star. Who could this
Oh, sorry.
be?
There's a very bald man.
There's
two very bald men credited. in
Mark
this.
Strong?
No.
Oh, so-
who's
Ray
more
Fiennes.
bald than Mark Strong?
No, not Ray Fiennes, not Mark Strong. Not one of the boys, like not Statham or The Rock or any of them.
No.
Not Willis.
No. But really bald.
Really bald.
Like
Paul from Fair City?
no, we're on that level of baldness.
I can't think of anyone else bald.
He's older than the guys you would have listed,
He's older, but he's bald.
and he is English.
Is he black?
No. There is a bald black guy in this. G-Man is in this.
Who? G-Mon's in this.
And
And
it's
it's
like sixth down the list.
Oh, I don't know what this is. There's a bald English guy.
Yeah.
Older than the guys I named. Vinnie Jones.
No.
I don't know. Can you tell me?
No, come on. It's a really famous bald guy from England.
I can't think of any other bald guys from England. I need another clue.
It's good that he's bald because in other films he uses his mind a lot and it kind of adds to the character.
Patrick Stewart. Charlie's Angels. Directed by Elizabeth Banks.
Yep.
Featuring the song Don't Call Me Angel by Ariana Grande, Miley Cyrus, and who's the third one? Lana Del Rey. That's a boy party. That film is terrible.
Is it?
So bad. I was on my flight to San Francisco.
Kristen Stewart, Naomi Scott, Ella Balinska.
Well, on my flight to San Francisco, the girl in front of me watched that movie. Then she went back and watched the Cameron Diaz, Charlie's Angels, and then she watched that movie again. So fair play to her.
It's a good order.
She liked it.
Okay. Does that kind of look like the Emilia Perez poster a little bit?
Charlie's Angels?
Yeah.
It's 3 women.
Yeah. It's just the color of it.
We can't even do it on Boy Party because the other two aren't famous enough.
Yeah.
I mean, Naomi Scott I'm familiar with. I have no idea who that third actress is. Apologies to her. If we do a music version of this podcast, we can talk about Don't Call Me Angel.
I don't think we'll be doing that.
It's a great boy party.
Okay, next up.
Right.
The tagline is 0% contained. Like zero, the number.
That's
with
brilliant.
the %. It's not like the word.
0%. Oh, yeah. Is it about a disease?
No.
0% contained.
It's about something else that spreads. That you have to contain.
Butter? I don't know. What else do you spreads that you contain?
What's dangerous that you contain?
Gas?
Close.
Oil?
No.
Deepwater Horizon?
No.
I don't know.
Fire.
Fire. Oh, 0% contained. It's about fire. That's a weird tagline.
This is a comedy film starring comedy guys such as John Leguizamo.
Oh, yeah. This movie's called Playing with Fire.
This is Playing
John
with Fire.
Cena, John Leguizamo, and
Keegan-Michael Key.
Keegan-Michael Key. I would never would have guessed that he was the third guy in that. Yeah, someone we know went to see that 4 or 5 times in the cinema.
God.
Yeah. John Leguizamo in his role as the pest. Right. Keep going.
Yeah, John Cena, Keegan-Michael Key, and John Leguizamo play firemen.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I'm familiar with the poster.
We give you 1 or 2 more?
One more.
I think this is an uninteresting one to discuss, but...
Grand. We'll move along then. What is it?
Last Christmas.
Yeah, that's terrible. Terrible film.
And then we got Dr. Sleep, The Good Liar, Joker, Maleficent,
Sure.
and Harriet rounding out the top 10.
The Good Liar we'll do on the podcast someday.
Okay.
Mirren and McKellen. It's like an old person boy party. It's quite a fun film. Yeah. Right. Letterboxd top 4 game, very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
This is Ava. She has Marriage Story in her top 4 favorite films. She's got 7 followers. Her Marriage Story is the third of the 4. So, number 1 is a film from 1994. It's a classic.
Forrest Gump.
Nope. And the other one?
Shawshank?
Shawshank Redemption. The Frank Darabont movie. Okay, her second film is from 2008. It is a family film. She obviously loves it. I've given it 3 stars. The tagline is "Prepare for awesomeness," with that intonation. It was mentioned on last week's episode.
Oh. What did we do last week again?
We did Runaway Jury. David Cross is in this movie. Dan Fogler, Christina's friend.
Is this a Chipmunks?
No, Dan Fogler's in this movie.
Dan Fogler.
Wayne Knight is in this movie.
Is one of the leads from last week in this?
Yes.
Is Cusack in it?
No.
Gene Hackman?
No.
Dustin Hoffman?
Yes, Dustin Hoffman's in this film. Michael Clark
Duncan.
Mr.
McGorriam's Wonder Woman.
No. Angelina Jolie is in this. Jackie Chan, Lucy Liu. Why would Jackie Chan and Lucy Liu be in this? Subject matter wise. What nation might it be themed around?
China Syndrome.
China Syndrome, a family film from 2008 with Dustin Hoffman. Correct, yeah. 2008, Prepare for Awesomeness.
Kung Fu Panda.
Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah, of course.
Then she has Marriage Story. And then in 4th place, she has a film that basically the same movie as Kung Fu Panda, in my opinion. But it's a serious movie that won many Oscars. 2022.
Is it about Kung Fu? It's about fighting.
Sure, it's about fighting.
Fighting.
There's fighting in it. I've given this film 2 stars, and the tagline is, "The universe is so much bigger than you realize."
Is it animated?
Nope.
Is it space related?
Kind
is this like Free Guy or
No,
something?
it's everything related. No, this film won Academy Awards.
For visual effects?
No, it won real Oscars.
Give me the tagline again.
The universe is so much bigger than you realize. This movie has an original song by David Byrne.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm trying to give you the clues that won't give it away. Jenny Slate is in this movie. It is 2 hours and 20 minutes long.
Have I seen it?
No, it has. I don't think you have. You might have turned it on and turned it off. Has an average Letterboxd rating of 4.3. Has
Sorry, is this Everything Everywhere?
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
David Byrne? Oh, he did.
Yeah, he performed at the Oscars with
the oysters or something,
Mitski.
no? Was it clams? Eyes on
I don't remember.
Eyes on a Rock?
Yeah, there's Eyes on a Rock.
There's Eyes on a Rock.
That's like the
the
symbol
guy,
of the film. There you go. It's a chaotic top 4. She likes what she likes. Well done, Ava. You're featured on this week's episode of Boy Party. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We hope you've enjoyed listening to us waffle about Marriage Story. Probably one of the best films we'll ever discuss in this show, to be honest.
Yeah, it's up there.
Up there.
Are you maintaining a ranking of?
I am, yeah.
You are?
I do. Right now, Mary Poppins is at number 1.
Of course.
Unlikely to be overtaken anytime soon, to be honest.
No.
But, a couple great ones up there. What's Up Doc and this and Contagion and, yep.
The Apartment.
Almost Famous, The Apartment. We've done some bangers. We've also done The Dark Tower and Las Vegas. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. You can also hear us, hopefully this week, on an episode of the Flop Culture podcast discussing Better Man, which we will put a link in the show notes once it is available. So have a look for that. We'll be back next week for more Party with the Boys. You can visit boypartypod.com. You can follow Boy Party Pod on Blue Sky and Instagram. And don't be upset that we podcasted with her. Be upset that we had a laugh with her. That's what I could have said.
Yes.
That's what I could have said. Oh well. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.